words upon my tongue.
You will never be the same.
And with the full catastrophe, he didn't mean it was all bad.
God that I worship has a way of saying, don't play with me.
I invite you to the dance with the Lord of the dance.
God didn't call America to do what she's doing in the world now.
Please dance.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Untitled.
Yay!
There are so many uns in our community here that I'm often very careful to make sure I get the name of this program right.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfinished, unfailing, untitled.
Yeah.
There.
Unkempt.
That's just us.
Yeah.
So we are here today with a brand new episode, and we are starting to get ourselves in sync a little bit with the Bible study that Unfinished Community is doing, and that Unfailing Love folk are coming to, and that is also being done with First Reformed Church of New Brunswick, New Jersey, because we're nothing if not random in terms of where the churches are we're working with.
Right.
So we're kind of coming alongside that a little bit. So if you are from our community and you've been to the Bible study, some of this might not be new, but it could definitely be interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you missed the Bible study, this would be a good way to catch up.
There you go.
It's true.
And if you don't care about going to any Bible study from this church or other churches and are just like, Bible study, well, it'll still be a fun video.
it's our objective every time.
There will be weird things.
Yeah. And if you don't know what is a Bible, then might I suggest doing a little research before you jump into this one?
Also, how did you find yourself here?
Yeah, good question.
Very carefully.
Dang, use the algorithm.
I've asked that question on multiple videos from multiple series of like, hey, welcome, we're glad you're here. If this is your first video, what the heck are you doing jumping in on like episode 8? Come on, guys.
Right. Please go back to episode 1.
Make more sense.
Yeah. Like you're gonna be watching this, you're gonna be like, okay, I get the Matthew, I get the Mark. Who's the Mandalorian?
Right.
That's a different show. We do that one later.
We'll get it later. The book of Boba Christ or something. I don't know. Let's move
that just sounds like Jesus sipping a boba tea. That's all that sounds like to me.
There's an image I like. I like that.
I need some of that in my life now.
Yeah.
The boba tea.
I mean, Jesus as well.
I mean, yes,
like-
but that's why we're here. I also want boba tea.
So should we tell these weird people that are starting halfway through a series what our names are?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, despite all efforts to the contrary, I am still Pastor Don of Unfinished Community. If you haven't figured that out because we're like 3 minutes into the movie and there have been name placards since the beginning, then good for you. And joining me on the left are Ralph and Bob, as you can tell from the name. Wait, no, hold on. I think I got that wrong. Let's look up and see what the name says.
Oh, right. I'm Pastor Tim.
I'm Pastor Mallory.
And we're from Unfailing Love Church here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I'll correct you this one time, but next time you got to know.
Okay. So next time I'll assume it's Takeshi.
Yeah,
There you go.
that works too.
All right. So today we are going to dig into Matthew chapter 5. And we're going to be talking about
Mark chapter 5.
Yeah, that's the one I said. Totally. Absolutely.
Mandalorian 6.
I absolutely said that. And please don't remember that there is a skip back 10 seconds button. I'm talking for exactly 10 seconds. Please don't remember anything.
Yeah, you definitely said that. It's fine.
I meant Mark chapter 5. Come on, y'all. It was on the title card. All right.
Yes, it will have been on the title card.
All right. Mark chapter 5. And it's funny because Mark's my favorite gospel. You'd think I'd have got that right.
Right.
I mean,
Anyway, Mark chapter 5, we're doing the whole passage itself is verses 21 to 43. But because we don't much care about the resurrection of the rich guy's daughter, we're going to focus more on 21 through 36. Yeah, I'm just going to be blunt about that, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, when you're rich, you already get all those things, so we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
So,
wound up.
I am going to kick it over to my dear friend Takeshi, like an errant football here.
Yes.
I told you I was going to bring that back.
Hey, sports.
Yay!
If there's one thing we know around here, it's our sports references.
Absolutely. I'm totally not referring to Takeshi's Castle.
No, not at all.
No, definitely not a thing.
Where's the Bible?
Yeah, I should probably read the Bible now.
Yeah,
So
I want to do that at some point.
Yeah, Mark 5, 21 through 36. Bear with me. It's a bear. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came, and when he saw him, fell at his feet, and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." So he went with him. And a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years.
Oof.
She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. Excuse me. For she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe."
All right. Well, a couple of points. As those of you who've been on our Discord server might know already, my nickname is, Pastor Kuma. Kuma being the Japanese word for bear. So when you said, "Bear with me, this is a bear," my immediate response was to say, "Yes."
Hello?
Hello, I'm Bear.
Rar.
Why did you flinch like
Because I
that?
thought you were gonna hit me, all right?
Now, there's a lot to unpack in this one.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
And if anybody is interested in seeing someone do a fantastic job of unpacking this in a sermon, I would direct you to my wife's sermon on this that she delivered just this past Sunday. This one's been making the rounds a little bit. This was actually from last Sunday's lectionary selections. It's a good one. This is one we've all heard before a few times, and well, there are some parts of it that read as problematic modernly, like, for example, a powerful religious or a powerful social leader coming to a religious leader and saying, "Please come lay hands on my little daughter." That reads very different today. Not gonna lie.
Gotta be real careful with that wording.
Mhm.
A little bit. But this is one that I think we've all encountered before. And before I do my normal thing and limber up to rip it to shreds, I'm going to ask the first question, which I always ask of you two. When and how have you seen this one just righteously abused in the past? Because every time we bring up a scripture passage, you're like, "Yeah, someone once told me this means that we should murder everyone who isn't me." I'm like,
Hate trauma.
when you come from a certain spot, you just kind of know your bread and butter.
yeah.
So,
But it reminds me when I was in 10th grade English, I was really upset about the fact that I was in this particular English class. I was stuck there with the football teacher, and I wanted to be in a class that was going to do something. And this guy was really just giving good grades to the football players and just kind of ignoring everyone else. So I set myself a challenge. We had to do 15 papers over the course of the year. And my challenge I set for me was quite simple. Whatever the topic of the paper is, I'm going to build a causative relationship to the paper that ends with the destruction of life, the universe, and everything. I don't care if it's an examination of why football is better than soccer. It'll end with the everything and everything being destroyed. And it wasn't until a few years later that I realized, wait a minute, that's just how evangelicals read the Bible. I'm not doing anything weird.
Yeah.
Welcome to childhood.
Yeah, welcome to our whole upbringing. It was great. Recommend 10 out of 10 would trauma again.
What trauma again?
But no, I mean, this one, I'm gonna surprise you. I've never heard this one used horribly negatively.
Yeah.
It was a good, you have to, kind of, it's the faith part of it was, you do have faith within, the ability of Jesus to heal you. Now, however, the part that was toxic, like I said, it wasn't horribly toxic, was, well, unless your faith's good enough, you're not going to get healed.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to go and grab onto Jesus. He's not just going to come to you.
Which he was. Okay.
Which is literally the opposite of like everything we know about Jesus. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, he was on his way to seek someone out, but
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
okay.
Now,
Ignore that.
And had she walked up to him, he probably would have been like, sure, why not?
I find it really interesting that in these communities, and I've seen this in Protestant communities as well, where we get hung up on the faith of the woman and skip literally everything else that's happening in this passage.
Yeah.
As those of you who are following closely along in your Bibles at home, you may have noticed we're using different translations here. I don't know what translation were you using, by the way?
That's the regular NRSV. It's not the updated.
Oh, okay. So now I can see the differences between that and the other one. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, our Bible app doesn't have the updated one. It just has the original.
Yeah.
NRSV.
BibleGateway.com, man. Just go there.
Yeah, the Bible app reads a little better on the phone.
Fair enough. Anywho, like we ignore all of the other stuff that's going on here.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about this is this whole passage. We skip, by the way, for those of you who are reading along, we skipped the last chunk of it, which is where we get Talitha Kum and the girl is brought back to life and all that other stuff. Because we can basically summarize that by saying Jesus went there, said Talitha Kum, which means get up, girl, and she got up, and that's the end of the story. Not dead
Did
anymore.
the thing he said he would.
Yeah, sweet zombie toddler, we're all good.
Zombie toddler.
That is my new exclamation
I was
for
just
anything.
thinking that.
Sweet zombie toddler.
You're talking to a guy who stole the exclamation "Sweet zombie Jesus" from the professor in Futurama and uses it regularly. So, like, we're cool.
I love that.
There was a whole discussion in the Discord about that.
Indeed, there was a long one, surprisingly long one.
Shameless plug for the Discord.
I'll keep plugging that one as long as I can. But I mean, we left that bit out, mostly because it's easy to summarize. But what we have here structurally is a literary technique that is unique to Mark. My teachers in the seminary called it a Markan sandwich, which is where Mark starts out telling one story and then interrupts it with another.
Yeah.
This is kind of the best example of that, but it happens in other places throughout the Gospel of Mark as well. And Mark is generally thought to be the oldest of the Gospels here. So you see this gets carried over into other iterations as well. But to me, this one is one of the ones where it's always been worth looking at the sequence of events in the way the story is structured. Now, I tell you that it's structured this way as a literary technique because I do want to make the concession that it's entirely probable that the story of Jairus and the story of the bleeding woman happened at separate times and were not part of the same narrative. Like, if we're looking at it historically speaking. I mean, again, this isn't actually a history tip. It could have happened this way, but it's entirely possible that the way this is structured is a literary invention too. So in the interest of being factual, I think it's important to let that one be there.
Yeah.
But I think that by taking this as a sequence of events, this tells us something very, very, very interesting about how Jesus operates. And so this is, I love the fact that so many communities love to focus on the faith of the woman, when what we should be looking at is, one, comparing the bleeding woman to Jairus too. Because they're both looking for the same thing, a desperately wanted and needed healing.
Right.
But the way they approach is different. And secondly, I think it's good to look at how Jesus responds. Is Jesus immediately stops prioritizing the synagogue leader when he has literally anything else to focus on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll help the rich man, sure, but if there's like, he's kind of got a low priority ranking because he's rich and a synagogue leader, and like, dude, you had your chance.
Right.
So there's all of that at work here too, and then we get this bleeding woman who is the definition of voiceless.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is something that I'm sure has been played up in evangelical sermons as much as Protestant sermons here. but like, do you know the kind of crap this woman had probably had to deal with in 12 years?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it must have been awful to live under those conditions for sure.
Not just the medical aspect of it too, but when you consider that any kind of bleeding was considered socially and religiously unclean,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
there's a
Probably
level,
outskirts of-
isolation applied to this as well.
Yeah.
She spent everything she has on medical care, trying to become who and what she's supposed to be, and trying to, get all the necessary surgeries to be done, and try to force her body to be what it needs to be in order to fit into society. That starts to sound awful familiar.
Why does that sound so familiar? I can't possibly imagine.
Doesn't sound like every day as a woman.
What? Crazy.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's almost like being part of a category of person that just occasionally bleeds for a while. May not actually be as bad as old cultures tend to indicate on multiple
Man,
levels.
it's like I get ready every day to put on a makeup when you don't have to do crap. Now, if I didn't,
Spoken like someone who's never had to meticulously coif and style a beard.
Yes, meticulous. 5 minutes.
One of these days, I'm gonna do the full Salvador Dali for y'all.
I will make fun of you.
So, like, we talk about like her social isolation, what she had to be going through, and all that, and the desperation that she has when she comes to Jesus. But there's a piece that we often overlook. Like, we talk about her faith has made her well, which is Jesus's ultimate conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a ballsiness in what she's doing here too.
Oh yeah.
Like, let's consider that in order to have this contact with Jesus, she has to go through a crowd, which she's not allowed to do,
Mhm.
in public, where she's not allowed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and physically touch a Jewish rabbi in the streets, which she's definitely not allowed to do.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, props to you.
Breaking
like,
all sorts of rules.
Yeah.
And
Real
like,
trailblazer.
so you can see the scheme happening here, right? She's like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
sneak, I'm gonna touch the hem of his cloak. I'm gonna, steal a little bit of that healing juju here, and I'm gonna move on. And he'll be none the wiser, and I'll be able to go back into the world, and he'll go off and do Jesus-y stuff in a Jesus-y way with Jesus, and
Yeah.
we'll be good.
Yeah. No one will even know, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. And
These things.
one of the things I love is that in a lot of the more toxic sermons I've seen on this, the focus is on that part,
Mm-hmm.
on the strength of faith she had in doing that, in pushing herself through the crowd. And I got to tell you, that ain't it. No, because it's ballsiness, it's riskiness, to be
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
But at that point, like, it's an invisible bleeding disease. Like, I mean, like, because if she was like bleeding from her eye sockets or something like that,
Right.
Right.
Different.
like, she wouldn't have been
I
able to
noticed
get into the crowd. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
she would have been seen coming a mile off. We can
Mhm.
probably guess where she was bleeding from in this one, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not a lot of places that a woman can develop a bleeding disease that won't be publicly visible. And okay, I'm not a medical scientist, I'm a pastor. Moving on.
Biology.
Probably a hormone imbalance.
Yeah, something like that. No. So in any case, so she's able to blend in with the crowd. So she's not, like, there is a risk if she's found out,
Mm-hmm.
but as long as she, keeps everything properly padded, keeps her motion restricted, and is in a crowd where people don't know where she is, the risk is minimal. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
not where she's actually taking the risk. We like to sell it as that because we like our spy crap, like dun, dun, do, 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 do,
Right. Yeah.
going to grab a Jesus right now.
Ground Jesus.
Jesus Hills Cop 3. Now in theaters.
The healing.
Yes, I did make a Beverly Hills Cop bleeding woman in Gyra's story and Mark.
Hey. The
Does
quality
that
of comedy you expect from this podcast.
Does this mean that Axel Foley is really canon in a very clear way? Yes, it does.
I like it.
Yeah, Saint
Canon.
Foley of the 80s synthesizer. Well, let's move on.
Canonized.
Done.
Done.
Anyway, that's not the risk she's taking here. Like she's not
Mhm.
risking anything. The risk comes in verse 33,
Mhm.
where Jesus stops, and Jesus doesn't do what you kind of would expect narratively here, right? Like
Yeah.
narratively, if you're reading a story like this, you expect cloak is touched, power goes out, and Jesus does the horror movie thing where his head rotates like 88 degrees. He's like, no.
Right.
Like,
Who has done this?
Right.
but that's the thing. You expect this is Jesus. Like the power flows out. He's going to know when he's going to be able to immediately. Hey, you've got like healing energy on you. So clearly it was you, the hell woman.
Right.
The literal hell. Come on.
Right.
Exactly.
But no, like Jesus is like, I lost power. Where'd it go?
Mhm.
Why is it not there?
Yeah. Arguments notwithstanding as to whether Jesus actually knew or not. Like
Right.
the degree of knowledge possessed by God while human incarnate is a matter of some debate in all levels of theological circles.
Oh yeah.
The simple answer that I can give to that is I don't know and I don't care. Not relevant to the story. But
No.
Jesus is at least
Unnecessary
presenting as
explanation.
Jesus is at least presenting as someone who doesn't know in this situation, so I'm going to
Right.
give him his word. Because
Right.
when people present us something, we take it as their word.
Yep.
Crazy.
Everyone stare meaningfully into the camera now. All right, so he's saying he doesn't know, and whether he actually doesn't know or whether he's doing a bit, um, he's giving her the chance to decide to actually take a risk. Because identifying herself here means exposing one, I was an unclean person who was not well and touched Jesus. And
Right.
two,
Mhm.
I legitimately stole miracle energy from the Jesus battery here.
Mhm.
You know,
Touch the
I got-
Jesus potato.
yeah, like I was gonna make the joke. I got Jesus to jump me, but then I realized that would probably have multiple levels of bad meanings that I probably shouldn't use.
Reel that one back.
I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
roll that one back. Like, I don't think I was intending exactly that. So please nobody make a 3-second clip of me saying that and share it online because it would be out of context and I wouldn't appreciate it. Although it would be.
Perfect though.
So he's
Anyway.
he's giving her the chance to own it, and she does, and that's actually where the risk is.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like she could have taken her healing and snuck off. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah, she
option
didn't have
was
to say
presented.
anything.
Yeah. Take your health and go home.
Yeah, like the same as we talked about the lepers who were healed, and only one of them comes back. The rest of them were still healed. Like
Yeah.
the
You
healing
didn't
was
like
just
take
out.
it back.
Yeah, you had the option to take your shit and go. Like that was okay. That was on the table. And what makes her faithful, what makes her good, is the fact that she got the physical healing, but she doubled down on the spiritual and emotional healing and reached for a connection.
Yeah.
And that's actually the
scary.
important piece here. Is
Yeah,
like,
that's-
it's much harder to do. You're right. Now it's much scarier to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's also the foundational piece of the Christian experience.
Right.
Mhm.
Right? And she recognized, and this is really the faith that made her well, is recognizing that what was important wasn't magic Jesus juice.
No.
It was being able to be seen.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so then you flip it on its head and you realize that Jesus saying into the crowd, when he knows someone who did not want to be known, just sucked some healing juju out of him.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the big old straw. Like
I'm
I'm imagining that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Data's having dreams and Riker's got that straw sticking out of his head. Imagine it's kind of like that.
Perfect.
It's
That's
exactly like
what
that.
it is.
That's the image. No notes.
Perfect.
It's the same
And now I'm
question.
just imagining one of the apostles laying on a table going, with mint frosting. Brought it full circle, moving on.
Keep going.
Next.
But when he turns in the crowd and says, who did that? Who touched me?
Yeah.
He is doing something that we really should pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
He is giving an invisible person an opportunity to be visible.
Yeah.
quintessentially Jesus.
Yeah. And like, we love to focus on the magic powers aspect of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus immediately rolls out from here and raises the dead. Like, who? Jesus the magician.
Another Tuesday.
Joshua Blaine, yo. Jesus Copperfield.
Jesus Copperfield.
Like, we like to focus on that stuff, on the power, the glory, all that stuff. But like, the big miracle in any passage
Mm-hmm.
is, it's kind of like one of those Lindt chocolate truffles. Now, the important part's right there at the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And what's at the middle of this passage isn't her healing. It's the moment where he stops. Wait, who touched me? That's the miracle. The one thing that this woman never had. Which
Yeah.
is,
Nobody saw her before.
Yeah. At least for 12 years of her life. Like, she was unseen.
Yeah.
And Jesus hands her that kind of on a silver platter and goes, here you go.
Yeah. This is
Not about me.
Yeah. She got what she wanted. Jesus offered her what she needed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, having reached that nice little denouement there, I'm going to ask, is there anything else we want to tear into this, or do we want to try to cut it at one?
I think we should probably try and cut it
I
unless
think
you
that
have
one-
something.
I think that one, I mean, it's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
once you actually break it down to what really, like, we should be focusing on. And
Yeah.
I think you nailed it.
There's not a lot of linguistic BS in there. There's not a lot of like translational trickery here. It's all a pretty straightforward passage. It's just actually understanding what Jesus is really doing here. That's the important part.
Yeah,
Right,
for
yeah.
sure. I agree.
Right. So then I think we will call it for this episode.
Yeah.
If you followed along this far, congratulations. The analytics don't believe you exist, so gather some friends and have them do it too.
Yeah.
I've been saying this in the Back to Basics videos because the algorithm loves it when you do, but for the love of God, please like, share, subscribe, share, like, and share, and definitely share some more.
Comments too. Those always help.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yes.
For the algorithm!
For the algorithm.
Yeah, because the whole point is community and connection. Hey, we brought it back to the thing. Oh, let YouTube.
Congratulations.
Proud of you.
Anyway, so for what it's worth, I will promo the Discord server one more time. That's where we're doing all the things with the stuff in the place. So please come to the place and do the stuff with the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you can find us most of the time too.
Yeah, we're hanging out in there. We lurk, we troll. It's fun.
Yeah.
Good.
Who needs a
Alright.
sanctuary when you got a Discord server, yo?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure, as usual, the website links will be on the end card and in the description below.
Yeah, they are in all the places you can get at them. If you are watching this on YouTube and you are a fan of the casting of the pods, maybe subscribe to us there too. A lot of the same stuff, but then you don't have to look at our crazy faces. If you're watching it on the pod channel, how?
Yeah. Good job.
Congrats. For one.
Witchcraft!
No, not the witchcraft.
Look, Hocus Pocus 2 just came out. We can make a couple of witchcraft jokes. It's fine.
Hey! Topical.
Boo!
She's not a fan.
Boo!
She's not a fan of the Hocus Pocus.
Boo.
Interesting. I actually quite enjoyed it.
I know, millennial white girl that doesn't like Hocus Pocus. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. But in any case, so if you are watching this on the podcast channel, congratulations. But if you're listening to it on the podcast channel, you can go over to YouTube and watch it if you're not capable of witchcraft.
There you go.
Only if you're not capable of witchcraft, because we're not going to make you do the extra work if you've already watched
Yeah.
it on the podcast
If you're
channel.
not
So-
capable of witchcraft, on the other hand, pop onto the Discord server. I'd like to interrogate that a little bit.
yeah, we'd love to have you on for an episode.
We need to know.
And for the record, white Christian man telling someone doing witchcraft, I'd like to interrogate that. Bad word choice. I meant to say I would like to ask you questions and know more.
We just want to know how.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
exactly.
Explain.
Like there's
That's
got to be
right.
some sort of weird video codec or something. But
We should probably wrap this before we go too far.
bye.
Bye. Love you guys.
See you next week. We're gonna be doing more stuff. It'll be fun. Bye.
More stuff.
See y'all. Bye. All right.
Slowly turn away.